Welcome to another edition of Financial Markets Insights. Today we're diving into what some would say is one of the least glamorous, but however, probably one of the most critical parts of financial markets infrastructure. And that's how firms manage change, market updates, exchange notices of vendor data, and all the behind the scenes work that keeps trading compliant continuously. So today I'm joined by Philip William, Chief Products Officer, who's been at the forefront of automating this process with AiMi. But rather than talk about product, we're going to unpack what the industry itself is learning about automating. Philip, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Clive. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity here. And yeah, you're right. It's an interesting space, and it isn't necessarily about features. It's about the shared headache. And we speak to a number of different firms, and they all say they spend hours every week going through this kind of stuff, interpreting, understanding, implementing changes. And it's one of those operational realities that everyone recognizes and everyone's been doing for many, many years, but solutions are few and far between.
Yes, let's start there. So why is managing change still such a time sink these days?
Yeah, good question. So a few firms we speak to and clients of ours have told us they'll have for example, a Monday morning meeting where they all get together in a room and review these notices that have come in for the week, understand all of the notices, understand the impact, where the focus needs to go, where the priorities are. And the problem is that you have multiple different changes going on. You might have new instruments, pricing adjustments, pricing regulatory changes, technical changes, obviously. And someone has to read this, understand it, interpret what it means for the market and their firm, and then decide what to do. And in this kind of highly automated environment, that middle layer, that interpretation is still manual. And some of the firms we speak to say, look, we receive about 100 of these every day, 100 of these documents coming in. And it's not just small documents sometimes. A lot of it are small documents, but some of them are quite detailed technical specifications that they have to read, digest, and understand. And if they don't get it right, it has impacts to their live trading and market data environments.
How many people do you think are tied up within the firm looking at this subject?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the size of the firm, obviously. And some of the bigger firms have teams of developers, business analysts, IT folks, depending on the type of changes they're looking at. And other smaller firms have just one or two people trying to deal with the volume of information and change coming through.
Yes, as you say, it's a real time sink, taking up a lot of resources. So if we think about automation, making trading faster, we're now looking at nanosecond or picosecond type latencies. But change management, this whole exchange notices, vendor data, new securities area is still moving at just human pace.
Absolutely. And we've made huge strides over the past few decades in automated trading. But though the administration, the maintenance of those environments, the management of those environments still moves relatively slowly based on fairly manual tasks, documents, PDFs, Word documents, that kind of experience and knowledge of an individual firm that people have. And kind of keeping those things up to date is quite difficult and takes time and takes human processing power, or has taken human processing power.
Yes, it's different in each organization, as we've said, because you'll have proprietary protocols being spoken by different systems. And people having proprietary protocols means it's not the same as fixed, which normalized everything and it just increases the complexity of what people are dealing with. But again, the point is that every single organization is going to be slightly different. And you've spent many years within these teams building experience within these environments. What do you think the industry has learned?
I think what we've learned, and to your point, is every firm is different, but every market is different just as much. You've got different exchanges and trading venues doing things slightly different. They'll all publish things in a slightly different way. They'll all have different specifications. And as you say, they've all got fixed interfaces, but they've all got binary interfaces or various other ways in which they'll publish market data as well as provide access to their trading interfaces and technical connectivity. They've all got different pricing schemes and different regulation. And what we're understanding and what we're realizing is to automate all of those different flavors, you have to understand all of those different flavors. And that comes from the experience that people have and the years of knowledge. And you have to kind of find a way to automate that. And another part of it is the trust aspect. Once you automate it, how do you give people the trust that the machine is doing a good job? Something that you can look at and understand, okay, the machine has done this, and I know why it's done this. Here's the decisions it's taken, and provide the kind of insight into why it's done what it's done.
To your point, the trust element is just so important. You can't assume that you configured a bot and it's off doing its thing without being able to have an audit trail of what the decision-making process is like a decision tree. Because otherwise the regulator pops up and if something goes wrong and says, tell me how you work this out. The ramifications of getting this wrong is not just a little bit of technology not working. You've got trading losses. It's massive regulatory fines if you get anything wrong. But the trust element and the audit trail is just so important. So what I'm seeing here is building automation is not just technical, it's cultural. It's something that allows us to free up people's time. You need people doing more critical work than this, the low-level work done by the AI agents. So, it's really a cultural change.
These are mission critical environments, as you say, in highly regulated environments. And you have to get things right and you have to provide the transparency in showing why things have behaved the way they have. So yeah, you can't just create a black box and let the machine get on with it. You have to be able to open the hood, show what's happening underneath and why things are happening the way they're happening, so that should anything go wrong, you can explain what's happened, but also in the day-to-day operations, you can investigate and understand what's happening with the machine.
It's exactly what you'd be doing with algorithmic or smart order logic. If a customer or a regulator comes and asks, how does this work? You need to be able to explain how it all fits together and really be able to go through the highly complex, highly regulated nature of it. A term we keep hearing is the agentic AI. Can we unpack that? What's actually mean in practice?
So agentic AI is not just systems that read the data, but they act on it in a responsible manner. So in our world, we have a number of agents that do explicit roles. So for example, we have a notice agent that takes in these notices from the various exchanges and vendors, understands the notice, categorizes it, enriches it with certain metadata. And then we have another agent that looks at the potential changes that could be created, what type of changes they are, whether they're technical, regulatory, etc., and create some of the changes off the back of that. And then we have another agent that runs an impact assessment over it and it evaluates how important this particular change is for the firm that it's working with. So the whole orchestration around that kind of end-to-end workflow, basically.
What did that output actually look like? How's it fed into different parts of the organization? How's it integrated? How does it fit with other systems?
Yeah, at AiMi, we want to be as flexible as possible so that we can fit into firms' existing workflows. We want to understand that people do things in slightly different ways that are bespoke to their organization. And you have to respect that and make sure that the machine works accordingly. So we fit into that end-to-end workflow. And as we take in raw change notices, we process that through the platform. And the final output is downstream to their existing workflow tools such as Jira or applications such as that, so that it can feed into their existing change management workflows, go to downstream development teams or any other teams that need to know about what's happening.
So by the sound of things, we're not looking just a calculation engine. It's almost like a collaborative colleague who's doing the initial work, something that historically a junior member of staff would be doing through the initial processing, etc. So it must be freeing up resources or allows resources to be freed up more for more technical projects.
Yeah, exactly. Think of it like a digital analyst that's doing the initial heavy lifting so that it can get through all of that initial triage and then free up the human to focus on more important tasks, basically.
Automation is always viewed as beneficial to help processes and speed things up in many ways, make them more accurate. But there seems to be a real urgency about doing this within financial markets now. And what's really driving that?
I think there's a couple of things going on. So over the past years, we've seen multiple different venues coming up across multiple different asset classes. Now you've got a number of crypto venues that are popping up that a lot of firms are interacting with. And obviously you've got many of the standard asset classes with multiple different venues. You've got longer trading hours. People want to move to obviously the 24-hour trading model. And underpinning all of that, you've got less resources, tighter budgets, and heavy regulatory scrutiny. For all of this is huge overhead for trading firms today. So putting that all together makes it quite difficult for firms to manage the plethora of changes coming out. So what can we do that can help firms manage all of this in the kind of tough environments that we've got today? So automation, I don't think it's a cost saving anymore. It's a resilience strategy and something that's becoming more and more necessary day to day.
This all rolls up under the area of operational resilience and ensuring that all processes are working and things aren't being missed and that resources are being allocated efficiently. And it really all wraps under that umbrella. And I think to your point, more challenges, less resource, more scrutiny, this has just led to people trying to do things as efficiently as possible, which AI is helping us to do. So looking ahead, where does this all go over the next few years, do you think?
Yeah, so we're moving from automation to interpretation and understanding. So the next generations of systems won't necessarily just process those changes. They'll understand why a particular change happened and what it means to you as a firm and the different aspects of the firm that it will impact. And that contextual intelligence will be the competitive edge that firms need to run their day-to-day operations, to respond faster and manage risk better.
That sounds like quite a big shift. Obviously, from automation, executing change to really understanding cause and effect, that's a different ballgame.
Yes, and it redefines the human oversight. But people will move from verifying every step, which they do currently, to, today they're involved in every part of the triage process from initial contact through to understanding, processing, and creating the change. But we'll move to a more oversight type model where you'll have human in the loop, but keeping an eye on things and understanding what's happening from a higher level. And the agentic AI will be, as we said, the digital agent that does the heavy lifting for you.
That's fascinating. And I think things are changing rapidly in this area. Realistically, going through everything we've talked about, what's the biggest takeaway from all this work?
What we're finding is the automation isn't about removing people from existing processes. It's about releasing them and making their lives easier from the lower value work, taking the heavy lifting out, as we were saying. And what we're finding in this world of continuous and constant change, firms need to stay compliant and stay on top of all of that change. We need to be a bit smarter in the way we do things and a bit more creative. And the industry's real challenge and the opportunity here is to turn that complexity and that rate of change into a structured, intelligent model. And what we've been learning is that's where the future is headed.
This shift, this cultural shift, this technology, is it accessible to everybody? Or is it just going to be the domain of the larger firms? So organizations that you said may have one or two people looking at these areas, do they have access to this? And how does it become democratized?
Yeah, look, this is still nascent technology. I mean, ChatGPT came into mainstream, 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was. But we're finding it's becoming more and more apparent. Firms we speak to are thinking about this day to day. All sizes of firms that we're speaking to are thinking about this day to day. And what we offer is available to all shapes and sizes of firms. And we're building, and what we've built is, I think, something that's available mainstream right now and far more accessible than some of the alternative manual methods out there.
So it sounds from what you say, it's more accessible than people might imagine. Easy to get started as well.
Absolutely. This is running and this is available in real production environments and currently helping our clients do what they have done for many years and automating and helping them manage this a lot quicker and faster than they have done previously.
Sounds like a step forward given all the complexity and how fast things move within financial market infrastructure these days. Philip, that's been a fantastic insight. Thanks so much for joining us and giving us a real glimpse into how automation is quietly reshaping market operations and allowing people to continue to move forward at pace. Again, thank you very much for joining us. Really great insights. We really enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks, Clive. Great to talk. And yeah, it's been a pleasure going over these topics. Thank you.